that back, I mean, we're hitting World War II era. So we're thinking when wars happen, when we're thinking that recession hits, people lose jobs, moving. There's so many things that we would think that's not really a detriment to a child, but it is. And again, 1 in 3 of our community, and it's a very high percentage of our community that faces trauma. Thankfully, 1 in 3 adults have no ACEs, but again, it's very important to consider that 1 in 3 adults, which means that 1 in 3 children in the community are dealing with some very intense traumatic issues that they're trying to overcome. Which brings me to Franklin community. So in this conversation, I want the public to be aware, and even the board to be aware, we are not the only community that is looking into developing a child care center. Franklin that is not too dissimilar from Madison. Like I looked at the quote here and I felt like I could have taken out Dr. Clendenning's name and put in Dr. Brown. Because he's talking about preschool space, they're running out of room, trying to meet community needs. They're about the same time frame that we are. They have a very old building that they're looking to build a new center on top of after demolition occurs to that building. So just want to be people aware, you know, the cost in Franklin, they're going to spend $700,000 to $1 million to take down that building, and then they will work to build a new one. So as many of the parents attested today, it is an issue in our community, but it's an issue that is statewide. It's not just unique to Madison. There are several centers that already exist around the state, but when I try to think of a community that is very similar to us, Franklin is very similar, and they are approaching the same thing for the exact same reasons that we are. I've shared this a 30,000-foot view, again, when we had the roundtable a couple months ago now. But what I said that night was that the average student who started in Madison in preschool at 3 years old and stayed with us until they were 10 years old and began taking standardized tests in 3rd and 4th grade, I said that they drastically outperformed their peers who did not. Mathematics, it's an average of 20%, and then in ELA, it is an average of 20 to 30%. So I'll give you a brief moment to look at the left is the general student population, and then to the right is where our students would score if all of them were part of that preschool cohort that started with us at 3 years old, had their needs met, and you can see the outcomes for those students versus the outcomes for students who did not attend preschool. I'll just give you a brief moment to look at that. And this is specifically for 3rd and 4th grade, looking at their iLearn scores and specifically iRead. So the two bolds, there's roughly 375 school districts in the state of Indiana. 3rd, 4th grade ELA plus math, that would rank us 13th in the state. ELA plus math in 4th grade would be top 10 or top 2% in the state. Now, if I look at the generalized population, if I took those same figures and I calculated those out for 3rd grade through 8th grade, you can see that in English language arts, we would be first in the state of Indiana, outperforming 375 other school districts. Mathematics would place 27th, which would be top 7. But when we were talking about state rankings, the state specifically looks at ELA plus math, 61.6%, which would be second place by 1%, which would place us in the top 1% of school corporations in the state of Indiana. The top performing district was 63 or 62.6. So again, I think it was Miss Bentley Schaefer said, if we consider these numbers when we are able to help children and we can start their education and their life off on the right foot at the age of 3, just imagine what could be accomplished if it's starting at birth. What we're trying to do, there was a gentleman when I received this training, he worked in the foster system for the state, and he said he was tired of mopping up the floor and he wanted to fix the hole in the ceiling. And that's what as a community that we're trying to do, that we, with your leadership and with your vision, we're trying to meet the need of a community that, whether it is from a scientific standpoint or an academic standpoint, we're going to provide children and this community in general the capacity to thrive. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Kim. The last hour has been really neat to see kind of from the preschool all the way through our seniors that are graduating and the students and the passion of our employees. It was a really neat hour that we just kind of sit through. So thank everybody. We should have thanked everybody at the beginning, but for everybody that was here in that last hour, thank you very much. We'll move on to our consent agenda. Several different items to cover here. 25-101, approval of agenda for the March 12th, 2025 regular meeting. You tried to throw me off there with 2026, but I caught it. Tried to catch the rookie. 25-102, approval of minutes of the February 6th, 2025 work session and the February 12th, 2025 regular meeting. 25-103, approval of payment of claims. 25-104, approval of financial report. 25-105, approval of construction payments. We have one that is Cook Mechanical for high school HVAC upgrades, the amount being $181,687.50. 25-106, approval of the personnel report. 25-106.1, an addenda of the personnel report. 25-107, approval of donations and grants. We have three to Madison Consolidated High School. The first one from VSG, they donated hydraulic lift tables in the amount of $5,000 to the Cub Diesel to be used to lift equipment. The second one from the MCS Educational Foundation, they donated $5,000 to the academic teams. And then the third one is from Tool and Rose Supply. They donated $50 to the FFA. Next on the consent agenda, 25-108, approval of field trip request, and 25-108.1, addenda of field trip request. We have several here. Number one, we have a request from the high school cheer coach, Jackie Schneebelt, to take high school cheerleaders to attend cheer camp in Mason, Ohio on June 16th through the 19th, 2025. We have a request from Linda Cole, junior high English language arts teacher, to take approximately 120 eighth graders to Kings Island in Mason, Ohio on May 22nd, 2025. Next, we have a request from the high school JAG instructor, Sierra Schaus, to take 45 JAG students to visit Northern Kentucky University on March 25th, 2025. The students will be able to experience a college campus, college life, dorms, college classes, and what colleges have to offer. The next is we have a request from Anderson Elementary School first grade teacher, Melissa Ullman, to take 76 first graders to the Louisville Zoo on May 8th, 2025. This trip will enhance the study of animals and their habitats. Next, we have the following out-of-state requests from Athletic Director Patrick Morrison. April 8th, 2025, high school softball at Carroll County, Kentucky. May 14th, 2025, junior high softball at Trimble County, Kentucky. Next, we have a request from Lydia Milton, third grade teachers, to take 61 third graders to the Louisville Science Center on May 16th, 2025. The students will be engaged in STEM activities during the day. Number 7, we have a request from first grade teachers at Rikers Ridge Elementary to take 40 first graders to the Louisville Zoo on April 24th, 2025. Next, we have a request from third grade teachers at Lydia Middleton Elementary School to take 61 third graders to the Louisville Science Center on May 16th, 2025. The students will engage in STEM activities. Next, we have a request from fifth grade teacher Marcia Uhl to take 100 fifth graders to Extreme Nasium in Clarksville with lunch at Joe's Crab Shack in Louisville, Kentucky on May 15th, 2025. This trip ties with Fit Kids the importance of exercising and the great grow along from the rat feeding experiment. Next, we have a request from high school softball coach Devin Brierly to take 33 softball team members to Don Dobina Field at Ulmer Stadium in Louisville, Kentucky on March 30th, 2025. we have a request from Anderson Elementary School teachers to take approximately 98 second graders to Stage 1 Theater in Louisville, Kentucky on March 28th, 2025. Next, we have a request from Deputy Principal Kathy Stoner to take 42 third and fourth graders to the Kentucky Science Center in Louisville, Kentucky on April 8th, 2025. Dr. Brown, your recommendation, please.
I recommend that the board approve with one motion and one vote the consent agenda items 25-101 through and including 25-108.1 as presented.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? With no discussion, we will do a roll call vote. First, Mr. Wallace,
Aye.
Mr. Story,
Aye.
Miss Yancey,
Aye.
Mr. Scott,
Aye.
and Mr. Bentz is also a yai, an aye, not a yai, an aye, and that vote passes 6-0. 5-0, sorry. I counted myself twice. I was excited. Next on the action agenda, 25-109, request permission to advertise for hearings. Dr. Brown.
Yeah, I'm seeking permission to advertise for hearings. This is the first step for the renovation of and any improvements to the facilities throughout the school corporation, including the construction of a new childcare and preschool building, demolition of E.O. Muncie, site improvements throughout the school corporation, and the purchase of equipment, buses, real estate, and technology. Asking for permission to advertise.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion, we approve 25-109.
Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. And with that, we will do a roll call vote if there are no discussions. Any discussion?
I'm just watching them.
Okay. With no discussion, we will start our roll call vote. Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
Mr. Story?
Aye.
Mrs. Yancey?
Aye.
Mr. Scott?
Aye.
And Mr. Bentz is also an aye. That vote passes 5-0. 25-110, first reading of MCS Policy 5223, release time for religious instruction. Dr. Brown.
Yeah, this is the first reading for that policy, therefore no actions required tonight. If you have any questions, please contact me. This policy is required by law.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Next, 25-111, approval to advertise for cafeteria bids. Dr. Brown.
I'm recommending the board give approval to advertise for cafeteria bids for the period of July 1, 2025 through June 30, 2026, Group 3, food and other products. We anticipate that we will be able to procure bread and dairy bids from the Wilson Education Center. Asking for permission to advertise.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve 25-111, approval to advertise for cafeteria bids.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Do we have a second?
And I'll second that.
Hey. We have a first from Canada and a second from Florida. So, do we have any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we will go to a roll call vote. Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
Mr. Story?
Aye.
Miss Yancey?
Aye.
Mr. Scott?
Aye.
And Mr. Bentz is also an aye. That passes 5-0. 25-112, approval of school student transfer request deadline date. Dr. Brown.
I'm recommending the board approve at May 22nd, 2026 as the last day to accept out-of-district students for the 25-26 school year. We are required to turn that into the Department of Ed before April 11th, so asking for permission for that date.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion, we approve 25-112.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Yancey. Do we have any discussion? Seeing that there's no discussion, we will move on to roll call vote. Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
Mr. Story?
Aye.
Mrs. Yancey?
Aye.
Mr. Scott?
Aye.
And Mr. Benz is also an aye. That is 5-0. Thank you. 25-113, approval of summer school courses. Dr. Brown.
Yeah, I'm recommending the board approve the summer school courses. Summer school will be offered to students at their home school location with transportation provided. The following courses are included in our estimate to the state and will be offered based on student needs. Courses, staffing, and estimated student counts are submitted to the state by April 1 of 2025. Based on this information, the state will allot reimbursement funds to districts that are providing summer school. We do not currently know what the reimbursement of funds will be, but are dedicated to the success of our students and feel that summer school helps student needs for academic support. Summer school will be offered to students at their home school location. The following courses are offered: elementary, kindergarten through fourth grade, math, language arts, reading, and literature. Second and third grade, individual reading plan for iRead 3. Second and third attempts then for testing as required by state statute. That would be June 2nd through June 13th, 2025, from 8 o'clock until 12 noon. The junior high, 5th and 6th grade, math, language arts, reading, and literature, June 2nd through June 13, from 8 until noon. 7th and 8th grade, math, language arts, reading, and literature, June 2nd through June 20, from 8 until noon. The high school, all in-person courses will align with the DOE summer school list that's presented. The online courses are through Indiana Online, June 2nd through June 20, from 8:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. All teachers will have 1 hour of prep each day in addition to instructional time. So asking for permission for that summer school plan.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Do we have a motion to accept the summer school plan?
I make a motion to approve 25-113 for the summer school courses.
We have a motion from Mrs. Yancey. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Give it to David.
We have a second from Mr. Story. Any discussion? Seeing that there's no discussion, we will go to a roll call vote. Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
Mr. Story?
Aye.
Mrs. Yancey?
Aye.
Mr. Scott?
Aye.
And Mr. Benz is also an aye. That passes 5-0. 25-114, approval of Camp Invention Summer Program. Dr. Brown.
Yeah, I'm recommending the board approve the Camp Invention Summer Program. Camp Invention is a nationally acclaimed STEM summer camp providing in-person and at-home learning opportunities that turn curious students into innovative thinkers by providing open-ended experiences that help them build the confidence, persistence, and problem-solving skills to make their own creative mark in the world. That would be from June 16th through the 20th, from 8:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. at Anderson Elementary. For staffing, we would be looking at 1 director, 1 assistant director, 6 teachers, 1 assistant invention camp, 10 to 12 high school student volunteers, and then we would anticipate 120 students for Camp Invention and 15 students for the Invention Project. So asking for permission for Camp Invention.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Do we have a motion for Camp Invention?
I'll make a motion to approve 25-114, approval of Camp Invention Summer Program.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Any discussion?
It's a great program.
Yes, it is.
As a parent whose both kids went through it, yeah, it's a phenomenal program. And with that, we will go to our roll call vote. Mr. Wallace?
Aye.
Mr. Story?
Aye.
Mrs. Yancey?
Aye.
Mr. Scott?
Aye.
And Mr. Benz is also an aye. That motion passes 5-0. 25-115, approval of MOU with Above and Beyond. Dr. Brown.
I'm recommending the board approve the memorandum of understanding with Above and Beyond. Above and Beyond ABA Therapy will provide ABA services to students with whom they work when requested and agreed upon by both parties. The services are arranged between Above and Beyond ABA Therapy and the families and are of no cost to the Madison Consolidated Schools. Asking for permission to be able to offer that.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. 25-115, do we have a motion?
Make a motion, we
I'll make a motion.
approve 25-115.
We have a motion from Mr. Scott. Do we have a second from Mr. Wallace?
Mr. Wallace will second that.
All right, any discussion? Seeing that there's no discussion, that we will move on to our roll call vote. Mr. Story?
Aye.
Mr. Wallace,
Aye.
Mrs. Yancey,
Aye.
Mr. Scott,
Aye.
and Mr. Benz is also an aye. That motion passes 5-0. Next up, 25-116, approval of RICO copier lease agreement. Dr. Brown.
Yeah, I'm recommending the board approve a 60-month RICO copier lease agreement with RICO. Our lease is up on March 2025. The copy machines are vital equipment to the district, and having these in working order daily is very important. We will be getting a third-party buyout of our current equipment of $8,700, plus a new monthly savings of $174.63, with a 60-month savings of $10,477.80. The total monthly cost is $6,092.50, with a total cost of the 5 years, $73,110. Asking for permission.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Do we have a motion for 25-116, approval of RICO copier lease agreement?
I make a motion to approve 25-116 for the copier lease agreement.
Thank you, Mrs. Yancey. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Any discussion? Seeing that there's no discussion, we will move on to a roll call vote. Mr. Wallace,
Aye.
Mr. Story,
Aye.
Mrs. Yancey,
Aye.
Mr. Scott,
Aye.
and Mr. Benz is an aye. That motion passes 5-0. Item 25-117, approval of TBRI Phase 3 consulting agreement. Dr. Brown.
Yeah, I'm recommending the board approve the TBRI Phase 3 consulting agreement with Hope Light LLC and the amount of $600 effective June 1, 2025 through May 31st, 2026.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Do we have a motion for approval of the TBRI Phase 3?
Make a motion, we approve 25-117.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Do we have a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Mrs. Yancey. Any discussion? Seeing that there's no discussion, we will go to our roll call vote. Mr. Wallace,
Aye.
Mr. Story,
Aye.
Mrs. Yancey,
Aye.
Mr. Scott,
Aye.
and Mr. Benz is also an aye. That motion passes 5-0. Next up, 25-118, approval of contract with Smeckens Educational Solutions, Inc. for professional development. Dr. Brown.
Yeah, I'm recommending the board approve the contract with Smeckens Educational Solutions, Inc. for professional development Phase 3 in the total amount of $12,393. We will have in-person, on-site training for new teachers or teachers who missed the previous launching the Writers Workshop. This day will be grades K to 2, 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock, followed by grades 3 to 12, 12 to 4, for $3,100. Teachers will receive the $50 stipend for attending half a day of professional development. This total will depend on the number of teachers needing to attend. We're also purchasing Teach Writing PD mini-series, a collection of 11 professional learning videos. We will complete this study during the 25-26 school year as a district by elementary schools, junior high, and high school. The cost of that is $6,293. Smeckens Phase 3 will be a Title II funded program for a total of $12,393, so that would be coming out of title funds, with the half-day stipends estimated at $3,000 to $9,393, depending on the number of staff who attend that. So asking for permission.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Do we have a motion for 25-118?
I'll make a motion to approve 25-118, approval of contract with Smeckens Education Solutions, Inc. for professional development.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Yancey. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move on to our roll call vote. Mr. Wallace,
Aye.
Mr. Story,
Aye.
Mrs. Yancey,
Aye.
Mr. Scott,
Aye.
and Mr. Benz is also an aye. That passes 5-0. 25-119, approval to join the Mid-Southern Conference. Dr. Brown.
I'm recommending the board approve to join the Mid-Southern Conference. The tentative timeline for us to join fully starting in 2026-2027 school year. Other schools that would be in that athletic conference would be Austin, Brownstown, Charlestown, Corydon, North Harrison, Salem, Scottsburg, and Silver Creek. We've been working for 5 years to be able to get into a conference. Patrick spent an incredible amount of time working on this, and He's finally been able to make that happen with the other school districts, and so we're asking for your approval to join that conference.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Do we have a motion for 25-119, approval to join the Mid-Southern Conference?
I make a motion, we approve 25-119.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Yancey. Any discussion?
Patrick, thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the effort that you put in to make this happen.
Yeah, thank you for your persistence.
I too would like to thank Patrick. I know he's been working very hard to achieve this, and there's so many positives of being a member of a conference such as this, and I think Patrick recognizes that and worked hard to get us there. So thanks, Patrick.
Good job, Patrick.
Man, he's not gonna be able to walk out the door tonight. Let's calm down. All seriousness, as somebody who competed in the Hoosier Hills Conference, somebody who coached in the Hoosier Hills Conference, and somebody who's coached outside of the Hoosier Hills Conference and now who has kids that compete, I can't stress the importance of this from an athletic standpoint. For the last couple of years, not having athletes not receive all conference was an absolute just total, we just weren't serving our students the best by not having that. That just steps up to other opportunities. Some people didn't see that, but I mean, I was just heartbroken for the last years when we couldn't do that. So before I was on the school board, I would probably text Patrick every 2 months and he would tell me to leave alone, like, are we in the conference yet? Come on, what can we do? At one point, hey, Patrick, let's start a conference. I was like the crazy dad forever. Like, what can we do? So Patrick, thank you. I see the coaches here tonight. It's going to be great. I'm excited. So that's all I have. Anybody else have anything else?
Exciting.
Roll call.
All right, roll call vote. Mr. Wallace,
Aye.
Mr. Story,
Aye.
Mrs. Yancey,
Aye.
Mr. Scott,
Aye.
and Mr. Bentz is an aye. And with that, Madison is in the Mid-Southern Conference. Next up, item agenda 25-120, approval to declare wrestling mats obsolete and of no further use to the corporation. Dr. Brown.
Yeah, I'm recommending the board declare 2 old Resolite, did I say that right? Wrestling mats obsolete and of no further use to the corporation.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve 25-120.
Thank you, Ms. Yancey. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
David. Give it to
Sorry,
David.
Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Any discussion on the old dirty wrestling mats? Seeing none, we'll go to roll call vote. Mr. Wallace,
Aye.
Mr. Story,
Aye.
Mrs. Yancey,
Aye.
Mr. Scott,
Aye.
and I am a definite aye. That 5-0 and motion passes. Thank you. 25-121, approval of farm project at Deputy Elementary School. Dr. Brown.
Yeah, I'm recommending the board approve the farm project at Deputy Elementary School. This is something they're very excited about and have done a lot of planning. Essentially, the 3rd graders will be part of the design process and building a chicken coop. They will work alongside a former deputy student who is now a community member that owns Big Creek Metal Works. He has also agreed to build the coop. In your packet, Mrs. Stoner attached a picture of what his coops look like. Jennifer Colin will be leading this STEM project. The PK students will be offered the opportunity to join the Chicken Tender Club, where they will be responsible for hatching the chickens, feeding the chickens, and collecting the eggs. This will be done from the outside of the coop, so they will not be exposed to the chickens. So we are asking for permission for them to begin that project.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve 25-121, approval of farm project at Deputy Elementary School.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Second, Ms. Yancey?
Yes.
Second, Ms. Yancey. Any discussion?
I just want to say that I think this is really cool, and I truly enjoyed their crop farming that Deputy did last year and was constantly putting Facebook updates out there. So for knowing what they did last year, I'm very excited to see what this is going to happen for this summer. So
Pretty cool.
Any other? All right, seeing there's no other discussion, we'll go to the roll call vote. Mr. Wallace,
Aye.
Mr. Story,
Aye.
Mrs. Yancey,
Aye.
Mr. Scott,
Aye.
and Mr. Benz is also an aye. Motion passes 5-0. 25-122, approval of resolution to distribute supplemental payment stipend with early literacy achievement grant funds. Dr. Brown.
Yeah, I'm recommending the board approve the resolution to distribute a supplemental payment stipend with the Early Literacy Achievement Grant funds. This must be distributed by the end of March. This is a cash stipend to award teachers, interventionists, and instructional support personnel who are responsible for the implementation and delivery of literacy and reading instruction through grade 3 through the 23-24 school year, and who maintain employment with the corporation on the date of the distribution. I will add that last year we qualified for 11,000. This year we qualified for more than 55,000 due to improved academic growth and achievement.
That's awesome.
So it's all good news.
Wow. Thank you, Dr. Brown. Do we have a motion to accept 25-122?
I make a motion to approve 25-122.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Being that there's no discussion, we will go to roll call vote. Mr. Wallace,
Aye.
Mr. Story,
Aye.
Mrs. Yancey,
Aye.
Mr. Scott,
Aye.
and Mr. Benz is also an aye. Motion carries 5-0. 25-123, approval of reconciliation of teacher payment 2020 resolution. Dr. Brown.
Yeah, I'm recommending the board approve the reconciliation of teacher payment 2020 resolution. We are requesting approval from the board to write off a salary overpayment from 2020 of $1,207 as we reconcile our books.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Do we have a motion for 25-123?
Make a motion, we
I'll
approve.
make, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I make a motion, we approve 25-123.
Mr. Story, would you like to second?
Yep.
Any discussion? Seeing if there's no discussion, we'll go to our roll call vote. Mr. Wallace,
Aye.
Mr. Story,
Aye.
Mrs. Yancey,
Aye.
Mr. Scott,
Aye.
and Mr. Benz is also an aye. That motion carries 5-0. 25-124, approval of sound production engineer teaching position and job description for Madison Junior High School. Dr. Brown.
Yeah, I'm recommending the board approve the creation of a new position within the district, sound production engineer teacher. This instructor would be responsible for teaching students in grades 6 through 12 about music literacy, recording studio basics, technical concepts, and music business principles. They would guide students through various stages of skill development, from introductory concepts to advanced recording and production techniques, fostering a collaborative and creative learning environment. This position would align with the district's commitment to providing a well-rounded education that prepares students for a variety of future opportunities. The addition of this specialized instructor would enhance our music and arts curriculum and provide students with valuable skills and experiences, and it is cost neutral, as we would be replacing a current elective. So it would be no additional cost.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Brown. Do we have a motion for 25-124?
I'll make a motion to approve 25-124, approval sound production engineering teaching position and job description for Madison Junior High School.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Any discussion?
It's not part of this, but I think it probably needs to be said that we are looking at putting a sound studio in the junior high. So this new position goes with a new facilities upgrade for the corporation.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Any other discussion?
I'd like to thank our administration and our faculty who's constantly working hard to grow our curriculum and to add more programs for our students to be involved in. It's just so important for our kids to have every opportunity to be involved in something positive. This is outside the box, and I think it's going to be another big success. So I appreciate everybody's effort for this program.
Yeah, I've kind of joked before with the board and saying that I honestly don't recognize what the school corporation offers today versus when I graduated way back in the Stone Age. So kudos to all the innovations that we continue to bring to the table.
Thank you, Mr. Scott and Mr. Wallace. We will go to our roll call vote. Mr. Wallace,
Aye.
Mr. Story,
Aye.
Mrs. Yancey,
Aye.
Mr. Scott.
Aye.
And Mr. Benz is also an aye. That passes 5-0. 25-125, approval to declare softball uniforms obsolete and of no further use to the corporation. Dr. Brown.
Yeah, I'm recommending the board declare some old junior high softball uniforms obsolete and of no further use to the corporation. They purchased new uniforms in 2023 and 24 to replace them. The current uniforms that they want to replace are dry rotted, stained, and of no further use to anyone. So we would like permission to dispose of those.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Do we have a motion to pass 25-125?
Make a motion, we approve 25-125.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Ms. Yancey beat you to it, Mr. Wallace. Any discussion? Being that there's no discussion, that will take us to our roll call vote. Mr. Wallace,
Aye.
Mr. Story,
Aye.
Mrs. Yancey,
Aye.
Mr. Scott,
Aye.
and Mr. Benz is also an aye. That passes 5-0.
Well done.
Hey.
Emma.
Next, we have, moving on to our reports. First up is our student representative, Miss Emma Wynn.
Good evening. First of all, my most important announcement this evening, happy birthday to Miss Pam. So everyone wish her a happy birthday. And then we covered a lot of my shout outs at the beginning of the meeting, so I'll just wish congratulations and a big shout out to all of the students who were recognized tonight. I had so many friends here and I love seeing everybody here getting recognized. I also wrote down that I'm always just so impressed by all of our FFA members and students. They're just so impressive and well-rounded, and so I had to give them a shout out as well. Spring sports are starting, so be on the lookout for those athletic calendars to come and support all of our junior high and high school athletes. I want to extend a huge congratulations to the Share Show cast, crew, and orchestra. It was a fantastic show, so thank you to everyone who came to watch. And then I want to give a special shout out to Miss Grayson. This was our last... It's our last show with her, so we're all gonna miss her so much. And while I'm shouting out people who have been here for all of high school, shout out to Coach John. He was my coach for like 11 years, so I couldn't have done high school without either of those people. So thank you for all you've done for us. Anyway, go ahead and mark your calendars for Hadestown, our last high school musical, April 11th through the 13th. And congratulations to all of our students who have been in honor bands recently. And the annual Custer contest will take place on April 4th at 7 o'clock. This is such a fun contest to come to. I love going every year. So come and watch and see some students' hard work. The junior high theater is currently working on Wizard of Oz, so I'm super excited about that. Everybody go see that. More information to come. And congratulations to all of our junior high swimmers who have been breaking records like left and right. They are so great. We have such a good program right now at the high school and so many great kids coming up. I wanted to give a shout out to all of our sophomores who recently participated in community service, and we had some great sophomores give tours to the 8th graders on Crossing the Ditch Day, so that's great. And thank you to all of the community members who came to speak to the senior class on that SAT day. We saw some really great presentations, so I thought that was a great way for us to fill that day. I also want to congratulate Mrs. Bullock, Officer McVeigh, and Ms. Lynn Neal on their awards last night. And it was so fun to go to Cup Fest. I thought it was really successful. It was great. I love seeing all of the elementary schools in the gym and all of the junior high and high school things, and we got to perform. So it was so fun to see all of the things going on at Madison right now. And next week is the MCS spring break. So everybody have a great spring break and a great rest of your night.
Thank you, Miss Emma Wynn. That'll bring us to our open public comments. We do have some procedures to read. The following procedures will be followed for citizens wishing to address the board during public open comments. Number 1, resolutions to questions or concerns are to be addressed first at the building level and then with the superintendent before being brought to the board. Number 2, those addressing the board will speak in a manner suitable for a public forum. Number 3, those speaking shall refrain from making any personal references or attacks. Number 4, time limit of 3 minutes will be imposed depending on the number of people requesting to speak. Any group wishing to speak regarding the same agenda item may speak up to 20 minutes or less. Total time for public comments will be limited to 30 minutes or less. If a patron does not follow the guidelines, the board may close patron comments and move on to the next agenda item for the meeting, or the patron may be asked to leave. We have one person signed up to speak this evening, Shad Britton. You may come up. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm a parent at Rikers Ridge. My son goes to kindergarten there. There's been some lack of transparency around the events currently going on. Our school SRO was out 2 weeks prior to the announcement, and then there's been some suspensions out clear understanding of what's happening. So I'm asking if we can provide some clarification to the events taking place in timelines of the pre-K3 classroom, as well as what the future may look like path forward to reinstatement or reincitement of the principal and the SRO.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, obviously, those are personnel matters that we cannot discuss the particulars. We will notify the families with another update on a letter when permanent decisions are made going forward.
And I'll just, while you're there, and I'll go ahead and do my board comments right now, if that's okay. I do want to thank you for taking your time to come and speak tonight. Parents and community members are the backbones of our school system, and it's important that they feel welcome to come and speak. So thank you for coming, Mr. Britton. When decisions are made that impact personnel, we're not at liberty to discuss specific matters. We have been transparent as much as we can be in ways that we're able to be, and we'll continue to inform our families as decisions are made going forward. I will tell you that I'm a parent of 2 Madison Consolidated School students, and being that I'm also a member of the Board of Trustees, I can tell you I take all of this very seriously. We as a board want to make sure that we have the most professional, caring, and nurturing employees in our school system. Our children are our most important asset that we have, and we will not be leveraged against anything that doesn't support a professional, caring, and nurturing environment and school community. Employees with Madison Schools should have one goal and one vision, and that is our students. I sit here tonight, and Mr. Britton, I'm reading this, but I can confidently tell you and everyone in attendance that none of this has been compromised with any of the decisions that have been made by Dr. Brown or this board. Sometimes the unpopular move is the move that needs to be made to protect our assets, which is our children. We will always put our children first, and we'll always make sure that they are safe. So thank you. I appreciate it as a parent. I appreciate and know that we're doing everything we can to make sure your students are safe out at Rikers Ridge.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. That will take us to the rest of our board member comments. I'm going to start with our virtual guys. So, Mr. Story.
I'm going to keep mine short. I'm up here in Canada. Sorry I couldn't be there, but I just want to say, Dustin, great job today.
Well, thank you, Mr.
It's hard
Story.
You did.
You know,
Mr.
I have to
Wallace.
say you did a really good job. This is something completely unusual. In all my years on being on the board, I hadn't done it. Hadn't seen this done like this. So if I was on video earlier, you probably saw me panicking because since I'm in Canada for Pledge of Allegiance, I had to scramble real fast to find the American flag and stuff. So great job to all the athletes, all the other students that got recognized. And thank you for the parent for speaking this afternoon. We do appreciate it. Dustin, thank you for your response to that as well. So that's it.
Thank you, David. John Wallace.
I'd also like to thank the parent that came before us tonight. We do want to hear from our parents, and our board meetings are always open to them, and I appreciate him taking the time to speak with us. Certainly, it doesn't fall upon them. I'd like to congratulate Lindsay Bullock, our Teacher of the Year. Well deserved. Very proud of her. I'd like to also thank all the ones that were involved in the Cub Fest and the hard work they put into to that successful event. Certainly a lot of effort was put into it. And our students tonight, again, I think that goes back to show how vast our programs are and how we continue to still want to build upon them as we've done here tonight. So appreciate them being there, and congratulations to all their hard work and their success. And definitely want to thank our teacher parents who came in and gave their testimony tonight with regards to our early childhood care center. I think that says it all. and how positive this program is. And to Sean, Mr. Pennington, thank you so much for the scientific viewpoints of it. My only hope and goal is to expand this to all of our parents in our community, so they can have the same fulfillment that our parent teachers testified to here tonight. It's so important. And to Miss Kim, Miss Lyons, she's just doing a wonderful job, and it shows. So we definitely thank her for all her hard work. And in closing, is Janet still in the room?
Janet? Yes.
I'd like to know how many of those 350 diapers that you participated in. Well, hey, she's an honest girl. So. All right. Well, hey.
Thank you,
There's
Mr.
always
Wallace. Mr. Scott?
All right. Thank you. And hey, great job. And thanks to Josh again for putting this on for us. Good job.
Yeah, that's a good job.
I also want to say a big shout out to everybody who was involved in the celebration last night for basically the best of the best within our school corporation. Everybody who was even nominated, that's an honor in itself. But for those who were the ultimate recipients, a job well done. It is fun to celebrate good things in our school corporation. Kim and the parents, outstanding. We could have probably just let Addie do her thing and stopped right there. But in all seriousness, the one agenda item we had tonight is the first step of several steps that we have to take to expand what we currently have at the junior high at where E.O. Muncie currently stands. So I'm excited for the future, but with all things government, there's steps, as you well know, John. And so thank you for everything that you've done. And the last thing I want to say to all employees at MCS is have a very enjoyable and safe spring break.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Miss Yancey?
Well, there's not much left to say. I echo pretty much everybody's sentiments tonight. Thank you for coming and speaking about your school. We hear your passion and your concerns. So, and thank you for Dustin for his very eloquent response. I think we all feel the same, that the most important thing is that, everybody, our students are safe, and that we have, the right people in the right places. So, thank you for that. And big shout out to the parents that come in and spoke tonight on the early childhood center. It's great to hear that. We kind of hear a lot of things secondhand about how great it's going, but then to have the parents come in and the children just, affirms that. So thank you. And thank you, Kim, for coming and sharing, and Sean. Appreciate that very much. And congratulations to all the students that were here tonight. And everybody have a great spring break. It's great weather this week. Hopefully it goes on till next week.
That's right. That's right. Thank you, Miss Yancey. One thing I do want to say is Miss Wynn, Share Show was awesome. I don't know if that got mentioned at any point, but I mean, it was fantastic. So congratulations and thanks to you and the theater crew. Dr. Brown.
Yes. So first of all, thank you to Kim and also to Sean. Appreciate you guys coming, and to our teacher parents who came after working all day to share their story of what's going on in the center. So thank you for that. Teresa, thank you for all you've done for our kids. It was great to see them recognized tonight, and their love for you surely will shine for many, many years after you retire and leave us. Josh and Karen, thank you so much for making all of this happen. I know this was incredible to put together. Appreciate that. Congratulations to our Teacher of the Year for 2025, Lindsay Bullock, to Lynn Neal, the Classified Operations Employee of the Year, and to Jacob McVeigh, the Classified Support Person of the Year. So we have 500 employees in Madison schools. We've celebrated many nominees last night, and the 3 winners were certainly very deserving, so we're very proud of them. Also, last night, we were fortunate because Graciela Miranda, who's the 2025 Teacher of the Year for the state of Indiana, joined us and sent me a really nice email today about how much she enjoyed seeing and hearing our stories in Madison, and she plans to come back and visit. So we impressed her, too. The Share Show, it was on my list. Congratulations to our own Emma. You did a super job, and the Share Show was amazing. Our theater department is literally second to none. I've been at this 38 years. I've never seen programs like our high school puts out. It's just incredible. You guys are amazing. Also, Cub Fest was spectacular. We had so many people, and we were able to showcase so many programs and kids and teachers and just a lot of great things happening in our school district. Also, a big thank you to Patrick for the Mid-Southern Conference work that you've done. Greatly appreciate it. And lastly, spring break is next week. Thank you. And I would like to wish my Pam a happy birthday because I would never forget you.
Oh. Should we sing?
Ever.
No.
Should we sing?
Once you reach a certain age, you don't have to sing.
Oh, okay.
Please.
Ever.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. The board will conduct a work session on Thursday, April 3rd, 2025 at 4:30 p.m. The next scheduled regular meeting of the Board of School Trustees will be held on Wednesday, April 9th, 2025 at 6 p.m. At this time, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
And I will second.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Thank you, Ms. Yancey. Any discussion? I was going to bring up mice and men and do a filibuster to keep John and David on for like hours, but I got stuff to do, so. At this time, I guess we have to do a roll call vote to end the meeting. So, Mr. Wallace,
Aye.
Mr. Story,
Let me think about it. Aye.
Miss Yancey,
I did aye.
Aye.
and Mr. Benz is an aye, 5-0, meeting adjourned.